really great idea, but today we're looking at this little cool Z-axis from IdleCam, and you can use it with action cameras or with the DJI Pocket 3, which is what I chose to use it with. And let's talk about that but let's see it in action first. And here's a good test going down a bump. Ba-doom. So is it supposed to be mounted on a car? Probably not, but then again, I kind of assumed that it would be something that you would use because with the Z-axis, it's that walking motion whenever you're walking and it's bouncing up and down. And that's why even when you're using a gimbal, you're supposed to use that ninja walk. So I'll show you some examples of using a ninja walk versus a normal walk with the DJI Pocket 3, and that's what I primarily use this for. And it's really weird because this is not a handle to hang on to per se. It does have a 1/4-20 on the bottom, so I guess you could mount it onto a little handle, but I wanted to use it on my truck just to see how it did and could I use the Pocket 3 with it. So I'm going to show you how it attaches now. I've got the creator kit, so the Pocket 3 comes with this little bottom portion here that has a 1/4-20 in the bottom. There is a 1/4-20 screw right there. You just take this, snap it right in, make sure it's clicked in. And this is how, let me back up a little bit here, but this is how the Z-axis is supposed to work. So when you're walking, it's supposed to help absorb some of that up and down movement. Now, why do I say but when it comes to this? There's a couple things about this IdleCam that I will say, great idea, but I think the implementation in the design needs to be updated a little bit. And it's because, okay, so you've got a spring. I don't know if you can see, but there's a spring inside there. There's a tension knob right over here on the back side. And that's how you actually increase or decrease tension on that spring. But the thing was, this screw right here, get that to focus, that screw right there is the upper end of the spring. It was actually all the way up at the top, and it was just way too much tension. So what I had to do was I had to move it down 2 spots. Well, it's not a very simple process, and that's probably going to be one of the biggest cons about this, is that you have to take this apart, and behind every screw there is a small little shim washer that fits in there, because as you tighten down the screws, you can actually add a little bit more tension to it. And so I found a good little balance right there in the middle with the Pocket 3 when I was walking around with it. Did it work well on the truck? Well, I guess at low speeds it does work well, but as soon as you start getting up to speed, and what happens is air starts to hit the Pocket 3, hits underneath the arm of this Z-axis, and it starts to lift up. Well, if it starts to lift up, now it starts bottoming this way at the top end, or should I say, well, I guess it's still bottoming. You can bottom out on the bottom or bottom out on top. I balanced it with that center hole for the screw on that spring attachment in the middle here, because that was great for walking. Not so much, and I'll show you some footage of what it looks like when I'm just like driving around, so you can see the little micro jitters that you start to get, because the Pocket 3, even though it does have a 3-axis gimbal on it, it does not like to be overly shook, or when you hit like this, what happens is that gimbal will sit there and vibrate just a little bit, and that translates into the footage pretty big time. I was excited about using it. I was really hoping that this was going to be something that I could use the Pocket 3 on a vehicle to be able to remote control, because I could use the Mimo app, spin the camera around, face it at me, adjust the image settings to make sure that I could see in through the windshield real well, and using the DJI Mic 2 with the Creator Kit on the Pocket 3, I could get good audio from inside the vehicle, and it would give kind of a different perspective, because I think the Pocket 3 is such a powerful little camera. But there may be something else out there that is a Z-axis that you can mount on a vehicle with the Pocket 3. And I think it has to be something that where you've got a good counterbalance here on this side to counteract the wind. So, you know, as soon as I got up to 25, 30 miles an hour, that's when you saw it really starting to raise up. If there was a counterweight system here to compensate for the wind, but also something where you could have good tension here to where on the downslope there was enough tension. Does that make sense with having a weighted end on the other end? So I think a little redesign is needed for this IdleCam Z-axis stabilizer, but a really good idea. So tell me down in the comment section below, have you ever used a Z-axis stabilizer? What's your thoughts on it? Would you, if a company makes a Z-axis stabilizer for a vehicle, would that be something that you'd be interested in? I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. Until then, I will catch you in the next review. Bye-bye.